with me today is Miss Fiona Gilbert, serial entrepreneur in the wellness space and CEO of Quanta Therapies. Fiona, thanks for joining.
Hi, Scott. It's my absolute pleasure to be here.
So, discovered Quanta and doing my research on, personal wellness and ways to rest and recover better, and discovered you all, and really interested to learn more about some of the therapies you all offer. But before we dig into that, I did kind of want to get your background on kind of how you got to that point as the CEO of Quanta. It seems like you've been in the wellness space for a while, but what was the prompting and to go down that path?
Sure. I got into the wellness space when I became a patient that had chronic conditions that was okay managed, properly managed, but not managed the way I wanted. So I was 28, 29 when I first collapsed. And they did the whole rush you into MRIs, take every vial of blood, lumbar punctures, everything and anything. And what they came back with was that I had a demyelinating neurological condition, and otherwise known as multiple sclerosis. For me, unfortunately, it was a fairly aggressive progression. I was in constant pain. I lost a lot of function. I had tonic spasms and spasticity. I walked with a hip limp. I walked with a hip hitch and a foot drop. And I think the first 5 years of the diagnosis was probably the most devastating for me, because I really didn't come from a physiology background. And all these things were happening to my body, and they were shoving pills into me. We were going through medical procedures that I didn't even know existed. And so it got to a point where I remember looking at my then spouse, and I said, look, I'm done. I'm just done. I can't keep going like this. We didn't sign up for this as a couple or as a marriage.
Right.
I don't know what else to do. And I said, the only thing I can think of at the moment is to maybe consider going back to Australia, because we could explore the possibility of euthanasia, as well as the fact that maybe, they have stuff there that is not so insurance based, and so, pharmaceutical based or surgically based. So at that point, that's really not a conversation you want to hear from your spouse ever.
Yeah.
And so his response to me was, listen, you're a smart person. I need you to take a year off work. I need you to take a year off everything that you're doing and try to figure this out. And he says, well, at the end of the year, if you are worse, or if you have not made any progress, we'll have this conversation again.
Wow.
So I thought that was a really fair way to look at it and to have that relationship. So I took a year off, and I went back to school. I went to study anatomy, physiology, movement science, adaptive fitness therapy, basically to learn 101 human biology that I just didn't have the background in. And at the end of the year, I was doing better. And then at the end of the 2 years, I graduated with a new degree. I became an adaptive fitness therapist, specializing in gerontology. And then from there, I became an American College of Sports Medicine exercise physiologist. And all the while just putting together protocols and just being lucky enough, because of the people that I knew would introduce me to new concepts, to new physiology concepts, to new movement concepts, to new products. And being in the Silicon Valley, that was kind of a bonus as well, because you've got all the biohackers and all the biotech companies with all their new devices. So that was really how I got started into this. And I started working in this field, not because I needed to work in the field, but I started working in this field to keep my sanity while I managed my own condition. So I went into private practice, and then from private practice, people would say, oh, I've got a friend or a sister of a friend who has this condition. Can you help them? And that's really where my clinic grew. And then companies got really interested in how I use their products, because they had a vision of where their products were going to go. But then when you put it into a neurological rehabilitation space, or a space where people do have limited mobility, it changed what we did with them.
Yeah.
Um, I was very lucky to work with a lot of concierge medicine doctors. And so my practice became a concierge wellness practice, where we could actually take the time to explore a lot of different options for a lot of different people. So the point is that there is no one product or one protocol that will suit everybody.
Right.
And even then, for them, it could change from week to week. So I would say the really cool thing that happened in my personal professional growth was that I got to play with some of the smartest people here in Silicon Valley, and we were all lucky enough to have clients and patients who were very open to everything and anything, and to have the financial resources to do it. I think that is the key too, because it's very easy to sort of say, well, we're going to try acupuncture and 3 homeopaths this week. But if you are struggling to make your ends meet, to pay the rent or feed yourself, that becomes something quite unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of my professional development, I was completely blessed and super lucky to have access to have all these people to try all these different things and try different protocols. And for the most part, money wasn't an issue for them. So it was basically, the magic wand of concierge wellness. So to get to Quanta, what had happened was I was doing really well. I had all these protocols in place, and for the most part, I hid my condition really, really well over the years. And then in 2016, I had appendicitis, and I went for surgery. And the irony of it was, I think it's probably the least invasive surgery I've ever had in my life. And it was the thing that took me out.
Wow.
For some reason, I got out of the surgery, and I don't know whether it was because my systems were exhausted, or, something triggered somewhere. And I could not get out of bed for weeks. And I kept thinking, it's just an appendix surgery. It was 30 minutes. People go to work the next day.
Yeah. In and out, right?
Right. And I was done. I couldn't get up to go to work. The tissue surrounding the surgical site was just taking so long to heal. I had such chronic fatigue, and I could just feel all my lymph nodes around my neck. You could actually see them because they were all swelly. And I thought, oh my God, what is going on? I couldn't keep any food down. They took blood tests. The blood tests looked fine. I reached out to my entire network and basically said something's gone wrong. And we couldn't figure it out. We just knew that all my systems were just crashing. So then one of my friends in New Jersey, then I actually went to Instagram to start closing down my companies, because I thought, well, you know what? I fought for this for 15 years. Maybe this is finally the time where my body's just done. And I couldn't go see clients because I could barely stand up. So I went through the process of actually shutting down my companies. And in that process, I was on Instagram, and I saw a friend post that he was using bioenergy to work on the lymphatic system. And I thought, he's a smart person. And I know how important the lymphatic system is, but I also know that every time you touch a lymphatic system, especially if it is in overdrive or it's underperforming, you can make yourself very, very ill from the detox process.
Right.
So I had done herbal lymphatic detoxes. I'd done, lymphatic drainage. None of it was really working, and it was actually kind of making me quite ill. And so I called him, and he basically said, "What do you have to lose at this point?" And I thought, well, what do I have to lose? Sure, let's go put some stickers on me. And within half an hour of putting 4 stickers on me, I had no idea what was going on, but I knew there was a change. I felt like...
You felt it that quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. And people he was looking at, he goes, "You look like something's going on." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I feel drunk." I actually feel like I've had 5 martinis really, really quickly. And then that was the first night I slept in months. And the next morning I woke up and I actually looked smaller. Like, I was not as puffy.
Wow.
And so then I was like, okay, I said, "I don't even know what this is. I don't care what this is. Something's changed." And the fact that something's changed means that I want to go down this rabbit hole. So I did. And for the next 6 weeks, I treated myself with bioenergy products. And I think if you go to our website, if you go into the stories section, there's a before and after photo of me. And that's a 6-week difference.
Well, I'm going to have to go back and look at that. I was on the site, but I didn't catch that section. But that's a phenomenal story of persistence and perseverance. And I think one thing that I'm taking away from what you just said is persistence and perseverance, but don't look at things in a box. It's
Right.
From a medical perspective, we often look at it siloed, and sometimes that's how we have to learn things. But then you have to be able to zoom the lens out, and kind of to your point is it's not a one size fits all.
Right. And it can
constantly changing.
Right. It just can't be, because, and as a practitioner, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better chance of success you're going to have, because it's not just a physiology 1+1 concept. It's also client personality. There's certain things that a client can do that another client just cannot do. I've got clients who will come to me and they'll say, "I just want a meal plan for the next 2 weeks, and I will follow it to a T," and they will. And then you've got another client who, if you give them a meal plan, they would just be like, "I'm going to McDonald's now, thank you very much."
Yeah. Too overwhelming for them, or whatever it might be. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I get both sides of it, because I'm a complete foodie. So if you tell me suddenly I can't eat something, even I might not have eaten it for 3 years, I want to eat it right now.
Yeah. It's like that little childlike response when your parents say don't do something, that's what I'm going to go do.
Right. It's like, so we have one of the things I do a lot of is a Candida Protocol. And so one of the things we do is that we say, you know what, for the next 2 weeks, limit your fresh fruit, because we don't want that sugar. No kombucha, no beer, because we don't want any of that yeasty stuff in your system while we treat it. And the amount of times people will call me and they go, "I haven't had a beer in 2 years, but the fact you told me I could have one for two is like, I really want a beer."
It's such a funny psychological thing that just you get told you can't. I guess it's almost in the delivery, right? At times where you kind of have to find the positive side of that somewhere, is like, just eat this rather than don't eat this.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And then you kind of just like, well, this is what I like your diet to be full of. And then if they say, "Well, can I have a beer?" It's not going to be, it's not going to be an obsessive thing. And really, most people who are going through something like that, not having a beer for 2 weeks is really not going to kill them. But it's just the fact that if they mentally go into it thinking they can't have it, it's a different conversation. So I think, that was the whole thing with what we were doing, is that we want to make bioenergy, and we want to make healing as accessible for people as possible in the space in which they are in.
Right. Kind of their current state, right?
because not everybody is ready for everything. And sometimes they just want to, we go into it because, in my head, I want to go, we systemically, we do lymph, then we take care of your organs, then we take care of the local issue. But you could come to me and you go, really, I know I need to get that taken care of, but what's really annoying me right now is that I sprained my wrist 4 weeks ago and it's still hurting me. They're not going to care that I want to look at their lymph. They want to make sure that their wrist doesn't hurt anymore.
Right.
So take care of that first so that you can actually have the confidence to go try other things. Or I work with a lot of people with PTSD. And the thing I say to them is, this is not a magic pill. What we're doing is we're giving you the resources to do all the things that you're supposed to heal that you might not have had the energy or emotional resources to do. So if we can take away some of that panic, if we can take away some of that anxiety, you can sit in your trauma and do things like talk therapy, and cognitive behavioral therapy, that things that take a little bit longer to do, but are so vital for your recovery. We're just a tool in helping you do that.
Yeah, it's an important distinction, and kind of the undercurrent of what you're saying is the patient persistence around recovering your wellness, in that we are probably dealing with something systemic and don't want to deal with it anymore. So we want it gone.
Yes.
We don't have necessarily the mental fortitude to be patient, but we have to be patient. So it's just kind of like an interesting dichotomy of working through that process and being okay with incremental gains.
Right. Or the fact that even if you do things like neurolinguistic programming, if you do cognitive behavioral therapy, anything like that, there are some days where it's just not going to feel like you've done anything. And sometimes that just needs to be okay. And I think, especially when your podcast is called Rest and Recovery, I think that's a really important thing for people to realize, that we do this go, 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 go. And we think we're going to have this linear recovery, or this linear transformation. And it just, biological speed limits just tell you that that's not how it works.
Yeah, exactly. So can you just unpack a little bit when you talk about bioenergy, maybe a brief Webster's dictionary version of what that is, and then how that relates to the stickers you had mentioned?
Sure. So bioenergy so the science behind bioenergy is that everything in the universe vibrates. We are all vibrating at a certain level. We all have a frequency of a certain level. We're energy electric beings. And everything that vibrates has its own frequency, or has its optimum frequency. And for example, a healthy human body should be vibrating between 55 and 65 hertz. And when you drop below that number, you start getting things like colds and flus, etc. So when you look at it, the highest vibration is a rose. So the plant, the rose, which vibrates 20 hertz. I use a lot of rose medicine when I make herbal tinctures for my clients, because it's such an amazing adaptogenic. So what happens is, when your body starts degrading, or systems in your body starts degrading, that tune, that frequency starts getting off. So the easiest way I describe it to people is, the sound check before the orchestra plays, and they all are supposed to hit this one note, and you can hear that one instrument that's not quite tuned right, and it's just jarring. So that's exactly what is happening to your body. Your body is this orchestra that is very complex. It's got different instruments going at different levels, but we're all aiming for one note, like one synchronous note. And when there is a system or an instrument that is not working to that, you start getting that degradation over time. So what the stickers do is, the stickers will say to you, every single one of them is adaptogenic. And so we're just saying, this is the note that you want to aim to. This is the note that you're tuning into. And the body being a self-healing vessel that really loves homeostasis, that tune is very comfortable for it, so it works towards it. It's like when you're in a classroom and someone scratches their hands on the blackboard, that's grating.
Right.
And you want to avoid that. However, if there's a happy tune, you kind of lean into it. So like your favorite song comes on the radio, that kind of leaning. Another way that I've heard practitioners have described it is the remote control in your car that unlocks the door.
Yes.
You're not unlocking every door you're not unlocking all the doors that you're walking past. It's just that it's tuned into that frequency. So that's what the stickers do. It is, it's a wearable format. It is subsonic, subharmonic sound that we can't hear with our ears, but our body cells can hear them.
Okay. So it's a wearable, but it has technology in it. Is it magnets as well, or there's some technology in it?
No, so it's 3 components to each patch. We have different things, but our base product are the patches. The patches are comprised of mylar, which is the sort of the balloon material that you get, the Elmo balloons at Safeway.
Yeah.
Mylar. And mylar is a beautiful conductive material. And within the mylar, we weave in a carbon crystalline composite. And it is this carbon crystalline composite that is able to hold the subsonic, subharmonic frequency. Then the final component is a 3M adhesive that's actually made by the 3M company. And that is what adheres to the skin, because given that it is having human contact, that's the only part that is FDA approved.
Okay.
Everything else is a life science product and not a medical device. So essentially what we're creating is a CD that the human body can read.
That is incredibly fascinating. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the other version of this product is the bracelets, and the bracelets are a much more solid component. So you're able to program the metal in the bracelets, and the frequency can hold in that for a year. So for a lot of our patients wearing the bracelet instead of the more flimsy mylar, the bracelet holds frequency for a year, whereas the patches work for about 5 to 7 days.
So 2 different types of wearables, do they have different use cases, or is it is one more like total body and one's more isolated?
No. So because it's sound, you have to remember, because it's sound, your body is a closed loop system. It is going to use it how it is going to get to wherever it needs to go. For example, the best way of describing to people is a liver. I could put a liver pat on your forehead, and it will eventually get to the liver.
Right.
It's probably because it's sound, you want it as close to the liver as possible for efficacy, but I can put it anywhere in you and it will get to it. The bracelets for us is kind of a protocol composite, because we've created protocols, for example, like sleep. Our patch protocol is a 3-patch protocol that you can buy, and it's you can use it over 2 weeks, or there's the sleep bracelet that lasts a year. So it's a nice transition phase for a lot of people, because there is a low barrier of entry to try the patches. You can buy a protocol, try it, and when you see that it works, you can then invest into the bracelet protocol, because there is because of the materials used, there is a significant price differential.
Okay.
And while it works out cheaper in the long run, have a bracelet for 12 months, it's a big ask to say to people, you know what, you don't know anything about this technology, you don't know if it's going to work for you, but hey, please spend $350.
Right.
For most people, they're like, what? Whereas you can say to them, here's a sleep protocol for $32, try it for 2 weeks. And so it's kind of that sort of transition. Some people prefer bracelets straight off because they don't have to think about it. Other people are happy wearing stickers because they are shiny mylar. So it really depends. On again, back to the original conversation of, we're trying to create something that's really accessible to everybody at the state in which they are in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a fantastic approach, is to your point, and even why I'm doing this podcast is there's so much out there. It's just hard to find it because you're so used to the macro or traditional, not even traditional, modern standards of pills and what have you. And it's not that they don't have their place, but it's only one element of the continuum of wellness.
Right.
Um, at least that's my personal observation.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it's like, I say to people, when they come to me and they go, I want to replace my pharmaceuticals with a supplement. And I go, well, you're just replacing with the same thing. A supplement is exactly what it's called. It's not supposed to be something you're dependent on. It is there to fill a gap until that gap is filled in.
Right.
So I always get very wary of people who sell, a year's supply of supplements, and I go, why?
Yeah. And it goes back to what I've had even in the last week with other conversations is it really boils down to customized or personalized healthcare, in really understanding you as the individual, where you are in not just the body, but mind and even to some extent spirit potentially,
Mm-hmm.
and all those things to be able to prescribe the right modalities or what have you to get you towards that progression path.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when it comes to, you started to talk a little bit about examples for the use cases, I'll call it, or I sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use a patch or the bracelet for a certain amount of time. Is there like a certain, hey, wear this for 2 weeks, or wear 8 hours a day, or just 24/7, or how does that protocol work?
Again, it goes back to what people are comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
So bioenergy works fairly quickly.
Okay.
The real about bioenergy is that the body responds to it very, very quickly. I like to underestimate what it can do because it feels more realistic. So I'll give a brace, like, for example, sleep. Sleep is one of our top recovery bracelets, and so I'll get somebody to wear a bracelet or patches, and I say, you know what, give it 3 days. Like, just give it 3 days and see how you feel in 3 days. The reality is that usually within the first night, people are messaging me going, I don't know whether it's placebo, whether you've told me I'm wearing something that's going to make me sleep, but I slept. And I'll say to them, I don't care what it is. Like, you could be drinking warm milk and that's helping you sleep. The fact that you're getting rest and recovery, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And even if you think the bracelet is placebo, but you're sleeping, well, we've achieved our goal.
Yeah, exactly.
So for a lot of people, what they do is they wear the bracelet. They wear the bracelet for 2 to 3 days, then they get into a sleep pattern. Some people only wear it when they sleep. Some people wear it all the time. We have shift workers or people who do a lot of traveling. They wear it all the time just to maintain a circadian rhythm. And so it really depends. I use 4 bracelets, so it really.
Oh, wow.
I have
Every limb covered, right?
I've got I've got everything covered. I have if I wake up and I'm just feeling kind of not as great as I like to be, my favorite is actually the performance bracelet, and it starts kicking in about 2 hours. And I just feel more alert. I feel better. And then, I take it off. Then around bedtime, I put my sleep bracelet on. I sleep through the night. Or, I think the most interesting thing people say to me is, I notice it most when I don't have it.
There you go.
And I go, yeah, that's, because a lot of it's supposed to be very subtle. Your body is supposed to change into this state very subtly. It's not supposed to smack you in the face. So for example, I think for me, the thing I noticed the most is we have a product called Quanta H2O, and it changes the hydrogen and oxygen bonding in water.
Oh, wow.
Um, and so when I'm at home, I will drink water that's treated by the bioenergy. Um, when I'm traveling, if I don't have my water bottle with my chip attached to it, and I'm drinking, what people give me or out of plastic bottles, um, in about a day, I start noticing that I'm not as chirpy. Like I just feel like I'm thirsty more often. I feel more fatigued, like my brain, when you get dehydrated and your brain just feels like it's shrinking.
Yes. Yeah.
I get that sensation if I don't have the H2O. And people have said that they've gone, well, it's run out. Not sure if I want to get another one. Not sure if it made any difference. And then a couple of weeks later, they'll call back and they go, hey, can we buy more H2O chips?
Well, and there's something, between, the chip and also just the consumption of water. Um, saw a statistic and actually had a guest on earlier. We were talking about IV therapies, but the systemic issue that is not talked about much is under hydration or dehydration, being actually a challenge. And just had a personal appointment too, in which the testing came back and that was actually one of the challenges and correlated to some of the way I was feeling. And we're like, all right, this is what you need to do. You're probably not consuming enough water. And I think I just had a conversation. They were saying it's your body weight in half in ounces.
It's that, but it's also one of the things people don't realize is that they can't overhydrate too quickly. It's
Right.
because that's a way. It's like if you're a dry sponge and you drop the dry sponge in a bucket of water, that dry sponge is just going to sit on top of the water. So what you really need is that sponge to soak in the water, which requires a little bit of pressure, and a little bit, literally some dunking. And so the way I usually advise people if they're really dehydrated is that they have 4 ounces of water every 30 minutes while they're moving. Like just walk, get up, do a couple of squats, drink half a cup of water, 4 ounces, which is not much.
Right.
And then go back to what they're doing for a few hours. And then that way it starts to get into the body, because there's nothing worse than standing there and thinking you can get 16 ounces of water down and then it doesn't go anywhere. You've just, forced 16 ounces of water into yourself for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So where is, so you mentioned the wristbands, the patches, you mentioned the water. Are there things that you're looking next? I don't know if you are or not, or what might be evolving from the offerings and how to use the technology. As you mentioned at the beginning, having that out of the box thinking and just looking at things unconventional, the application that they may have. How about your Quanta?
For Quanta, there's Quanta and then there's my clinical practice. So there's Quanta and then there's Fiona Gilbert. Fiona Gilbert already does all the crazy stuff. And Quanta as a company is open to, new technology all the time that will add what we're doing. But there's much more corporate structure involved with that. We need the partnerships, we need to have all the corporate checks. But Fiona Gilbert, the practitioner, loves using the patches with herbal tinctures and laser therapy and light therapy and vibration therapy and IV. Like, you name it, I use it in my clinic. In addition to what we have at Quanta. But Quanta as a company, we are primarily focused on bioenergy and frequency science. So anything that's coming out through there in that space, we are completely interested to partner with, and we're open to everything. And I think part of being open, because I think the more you know, the more you realize that you don't know anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I started out in IT sales, and that was the joke is the more you learn, the less you know, because it just opens up another door to something else that you didn't realize had so many layers to it. And I just find it interesting too. Again, a bit of a theme we've been talking about is the um, unconventional thinking, where there's so many correlations to things that you don't think necessarily are. You make these false assumptions or limitations, this limited
Mm-hmm.
beliefs construct on, oh, this is for this. And I think even with the current circumstance, not to get into that much, but where they're finding a number of therapeutic drugs that are very effective for other things they hadn't considered.
Right,
So it's
right.
definitely fascinating.
Well, and I think a lot of it is, while bioenergy sounds very high tech and very futuristic, the reality of it is this thought process, bioenergy, and how we relate to nature.
Yeah.
This is traditional medicine. We've just somehow put it into a wearable format, in with some science, and a lot of what we do, a lot of the healing, a lot of our practitioners, we're all returning to traditional forms of healing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and and when you look at how we build our patches, how we build our stickers, it's about what exists in nature that is most important for us. So, for example, glutathione is a master antioxidant.
Yes.
So we have the sound frequency of glutathione in 85% of our patches because that's a building block that the human body needs.
That is amazing. Sorry, I was just jotting down. That's fantastic. That's pretty unique. I mean, um, and that's a new discovery for me, is the importance of glutathione and how it operates in our body, and the importance of it.
Oh yeah, I mean it's amazing. I mean, you know, a lot of people are now doing glutathione IV pushes or intramuscular pushes. Again, that if you're scared of needles or don't have that sort of financial resources, um, the only thing I always say to people is please don't ingest glutathione because you're going to be wasting a lot of money.
Yeah,
Um,
heard the same.
body can't take that in that format. So from what we've seen, especially through our free radical patches, is as a sound frequency, the body can use it, and it's very, very effective. And you know, people will say to me, "Hey, what are you using for your skincare?" And I said, "Well, a glutathione patch." Because it's literally it's anti-aging. It's slowing down my aging process.
That's amazing. Yeah, and again, I had another conversation earlier in the week, and it was kind of the similar theme, is kind of getting closer to the source, that
Mhm.
our body can self heal itself very well. But if we couple that with technology to maybe help enable it more, either localized or accelerate the process a little more through those natural means, or more natural means, coupled
Right.
with the technology, it's going to produce a better result with less side effect.
Absolutely, because you want the body to do its thing, and every time we put something into it that it's not naturally resonant with it, you're creating stress. And while a little bit of stress is great, too much stress is just too much.
Yes.
So, um, we like to create systems that basically are how's the body going to do what it's supposed to do, with the minimum amount of invasion.
Great. Well, Fiona, we're coming up on time here, but
Mhm.
fascinating conversation. I'm like ready to go onto the website and order half the stuff, but especially with my sleep challenges. So, but I did want to close out with a couple of personal questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, what are you reading right now?
Okay. I am one of those weird people that has to read three books at the same time. So I have 3 books going at any time because it's not that I have ADHD. I think there is just kind of a delay in processing information. So if I'm stimulated across 3 different things, halfway through the other book, I'll be like, oh, I read about this in the other book. Okay, I get it now. So at the moment, my 3 books are An Anatomy of Addiction, which is looking at how cocaine affected some of the greatest minds in like Freud and Halsted. So that's an interesting biographical historical read. I'm rereading DNA is Not Destiny. And because I am challenging some of my belief systems, I'm reading a book called Sacred Contracts. And it talks more about why some bodies don't heal while others do, on a more spiritual level.
Interesting. Very cool. Great. What are you listening to right now? Music or podcasts?
I listen to music a lot. I podcasts and TV, I don't seem to be able to do on my own. So when I'm with friends and we listen collectively, I'm open to everything and anything.
Right.
The great thing about music is that my kids can send stuff to my playlist and I can hear what they're listening to. And half the time I go, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
But I've picked up some really cool stuff. And my kids are 23 and 19. So they have this very eclectic music style. And then having lived with me, I either improved their music style or made it worse. So I don't know.
Time will tell. Time will tell. And so last one. So what is your go-to rest and recovery method?
This is kind of, I get asked this a lot, especially when people know I come from this background of being ill for a very long time. And now I run a multinational company that is promoting wellness. So I think if I got sick or if I got burnt out, that would just not be good for the company on all sorts of levels, not just the running it, but just the whole optics of it.
Right.
So one of the things I've learned in this process is that you can't really say, on Saturdays is my self-care day. Because come Saturday, there's going to be 7 million things that still need to be done that maybe you didn't do Monday to Friday. So wellness and recovery has to happen throughout the day, and it has to happen every day. So for me, nutrition wise, I always have a mug of bone broth every day. That's just kind of my 4 p.m. happy afternoon collagen don't talk to me moment. I stop for dinner time. I've learned to stop for dinner time, and I learned to have a bedtime. So when I was first doing this, I was taking calls at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. for different. Or I'll sit up just going, oh my God, I need to do this. And I actually made myself sick. I made myself sick running a wellness company. Not a good look.
No, yeah. Well, it's kind of like, the old adage of cobbler's kids has no shoes, or doctors make some of the worst patients kind of thing is. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you're managing a large multinational company, so there's plenty of demands on you.
Right. So you realize that if you go down the whole everything goes down with you. And really there's nothing that you're doing that is so important that you can't stop.
Yeah.
And if you do that, you set the culture for the whole company too. I don't want my staff burning out. I want my staff to be here with me, enjoying what we do and being very passionate about what we do because we think what we do is very cool. So because of that, we've all established really healthy boundaries. And because we all work in different time zones, um, there are pockets of time where you're just like, okay, we all as a team, we need to sort this out. But then also us as a team, we're very respectful of everybody's personal time. And there is no, I've come to realize that there is no company emergency that is so important that I have to pull someone out of their life.
Yeah.
If our website goes down for 6 hours, no one's going to die, really. So
Yep.
you just okay with that.
Put into proper context of what the urgency or the emergency really is. That's an important, I mean, as a leader, that's a great precedent to set. And I think it's very empowering for folks. And it's starting to trickle into broader, larger companies slowly. So it seems. But yeah, we're recovering from the .com where, it was a cultural, badge of honor to be pounding, Mountain Dews and up until 3 in the morning and then up at 6 and do it all over again. It's not really a sustainable approach and just leads to not only physical, but also just the errors in the company. You're probably losing more, if you look at it from a financial standpoint, probably more from the errors and the rework than 4 to 6 hours you had to take because the site was down.
Right. Or, I used to get these notifications on my phone that would say, if the site was running a little slow, and I just be, oh my God, the site's running slow. And you're like, you know what? In the big scheme of things, no one's going to die.
Exactly. Well, Fiona, this was really a fun conversation. It was very educational for me and I'm sure for our listeners. So thank you so much for the time and all the best to you and Quanta.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And, if you or your listeners have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We love sharing what we do, so we will have all the time in the world for that.
Great. Thank you.
All right.